So what we have studied, that we can use momentum conservation whenever we are studying collision. So what happened, let's suppose this is m1 and this is moving with u1, and this is m2, it's moving with u2. So after collision, what happens, this m1 moves with v1 and this m2 moves with v2, right? So sometimes they ask you, prove that the velocity of center mass remain unchanged in case of collision. So we can say that momentum is conserved. So we can write that m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equals to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Also, if you divide this by m1 plus m2 and this from m1 plus m2, you can say that, right? Initial velocity of center of mass is equals to the final velocity of center of mass. And this is of great use, right? What if both of them are at rest? If u center of mass is 0, then what happen? V of center of mass will also be what? 0. And this will be of great use when we are dealing with the center of mass frame. This forms the basis, right? Because this, that is what, zero momentum frame. So this forms the basis when we start with the center of mass frame. Okay, so I want to refresh your concept with some small questions, right? So that you can also find out the applications of E, right? E less than 1. So most of the time we are going to study about perfectly inelastic collision. Let's suppose 1% only inelastic collision, 10% around perfectly elastic collision, and rest of the 89%, let's suppose we are going to study about the elastic collision only, right? So let's suppose if we have mass m and this mass 4m, right? And this is moving with 10 meter per second, and this is moving with not 20, let's suppose 5 meter per second, and coefficient of restitution is 1 by 4 is given, right? So we need to find out their final velocity. What we need to find out? Their final velocity. So how can we can apply the coefficient of restitution formula? Just see this. So one thing we can do, treat this direction as positive and this direction as negative. So after collision, let's suppose this mass m and this 4 mass 4m, this goes with v1 and this goes with v2, let's suppose. So according to the conservation of momentum, we can write it that m into 10 plus 4m into 5 here is equals to what? M into v1 plus 4m into v2. This is one dimensional, so I'm not using any vector symbol here. What does this mean? M cancels out, so it will become what? 20. This is 30. 30 equals to what? v1 plus 4v2. So we have two variable here. Also for E, what we can write, that 1 by 4 is equals to velocity of separation. This is the v2 minus v1 will be the separation, and 10 5. 10 minus 5 will be the approach. So this is the coefficient of restitution. This is momentum conservation. Using this, we can solve it easily. This is an equation in 2 dimension. Okay. Now come to the inelastic. If it's not given, then we have to consider inelastic as perfectly inelastic collision. Okay. So this we have to treat. So we already know that in case of inelastic collision, that kinetic energy is not conserved. but it does not mean that kinetic energy will always remain less, right? So in case of perfectly elastic collision, there may be some cases when kinetic energy may increase and when kinetic energy may decrease. So for the decrease, you will see, you can understand by a very small thing. Let's suppose if we have block, right, and if we shoot a bullet in it, so it got embedded in it, right? So what happened, this kinetic energy is converted into the heat, right? So you can see the decrease in kinetic energy from this. But there are also cases when kinetic energy is increased, when internal energy is so much sufficient that it increases the kinetic energy. For example, in case of atom, and it is at excited state before collision, and it come to the normal state after collision. So what happened, the electron that fall back will have absorbed the energy, that is the potential energy, and it will convert it into the kinetic energy. So it increases the kinetic energy, right? So don't worry, you will study these in your section B also, but you have to just understand the kinetic energy is not conserved. It doesn't mean that it will be only decrease, it may increase also, because the collision what we are studying is valid for Newton mechanics also, right? It is also valid for the subatomic particles also. So in case of Rutherford scattering, we also we will see the elastic collision, right? In case of nuclear reactor, we will also see many cases. In case of ballistic pendulum, we will also see collision. So you should understand these points, right? That kinetic energy may increase or decrease. Why I'm telling you that these things, because इन केस ऑफ राइटिंग कंक्लूजन, जब पेपर भरना होता है तो बच्चे क्या करते हैं, ये एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन लिख देते हैं, काइनेटिक एनर्जी विल डिक्रीज इन केस ऑफ परफेक्टली इलास्टिक कोलिजन, तो वो नहीं लिखना है. ओके, तो दिस इज द थिंग. ओके, so if we want to calculate the velocity, so what we can do, let's suppose before collision, and we are talking about the just before and just after. So let's suppose this is the condition m1, this is m2, this is moving with u1, this is u2. Okay, after, so after some interval of time, it will move with velocity v and stick to each other. This is m2, right? So they will stick to each other because it is a perfectly elastic collision, and they will move with the same velocity. So we need to find this v. So according to the momentum conservation, you can easily write it at m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equals to m1 plus m2 into v. So v will become what? m1 u1 plus m2 u2 upon m1 plus m2. So this will be the final velocity when we are treating it as from lab frame. We are seeing this from lab frame, right? If you know from the lab frame, you can also say that this is the what? This is the also the velocity of center of mass. We know that this is also the what? This is also the velocity of center of mass. You can see this. Okay. One more thing. Let's decide out kinetic energy initial, sorry, final upon kinetic energy initial. So what will happen if we write out the kinetic energy initial to the final ratio? So for simplicity, let's assume u2 as 0. Let's assume u2 as 0, because in most of the cases what happen, when we are studying collision, one atom or one object is kept at rest and another one is bombarded on it, right? So this is the most useful case, or you can say the most general case. So if you treat U2 as 0, so the final energy will become what? Half m1 plus m2 upon v square, and here it will become half m1 u1 square. So it will become half m1 plus m2 upon half m1 u1 square, and for the v square you can use m1 u1 upon m1 plus m2 whole square. So cut these things, right? So you will come with this m1 upon m1 plus m2, and which is less than 1, and that signifies that final kinetic energy is less than the kinetic energy in case of this scattering, right? So this loss of kinetic energy is in terms of the what? Heat energy. The loss is in the form of heat energy. So when two particles collide with each other, right, shorting of a bullet, so it will convert it into a heat energy. Okay. Okay. Also, what if we consider this from center of mass frame? If we consider the same thing with the center of mass frame. So when we write, let's suppose if you write the u1 dash, we know that it is what? m2 u1 upon m1 plus m2. And if you can write u2 dash, we have already discussed these things in center of mass chapter, it will become minus mu1 upon m1 plus m2. So before collision, the momentum, initial momentum will be what? 0. Multiply this u1 with m1 and this with u2, that is m1 u1 dash plus m2 u2 dash. Also you can, so this equals to pf will also be equals to what? 0 after also. So what does mean if you visualize this thing? So what happened? Two things come together to form one thing, and they all of them move with the same velocity. So the center of mass will also have the same velocity like this. So in this center of mass frame, suppose this particle is moving with v, this particle is moving with v, and you are at the center of mass. You are also moving with v. So what is the velocity of this particle with respect to yourself? It's 0, right? So in the center of mass, nothing will move. They will be at rest, right? So it is not very useful in elastic collision, center of mass frame, but in elastic collision, especially in when we read about oblique elastic collision, that is 2-dimension or 3-dimension, it will be of much use. Okay, so this is all about inelastic collision, right? They are also used in nuclear furnaces also, nuclear reactions. They are also used some of the Rutherford scattering, inelastic scattering. They are also used, but these are not in our syllabus. Inelastic Rutherford scattering. So we will keep ourselves with this only, right? Okay. Next one is our elastic collision. Elastic collision. In elastic collision, we will first start with head-on collision. I've already discussed what do you know head-on collision, or you can also say that 1D collision, right? So in this also we will try to study with inertia, sorry, lab frame of reference, also the center of mass frame of reference. But center of mass frame of reference is not so much useful in this because it's all also very easy to understand. So what we can say that, let's suppose before collision this m1 is traveling with u1 and this m2 is traveling with u2. So this is the case before they collide, and after the collision v1 and this v2. Also one more thing, scattering is also a collision, right? So in collision touching is not required. For example, if you have positive charge, if you throw it, and if you have a positive charge, throw it, what happen? It will come here and it will go back. It will come here and it will go back. It is also a type of collision, right? In case of Rutherford scattering, what happened? We have an atom here and we threw alpha particle here. So what they go like this. So this is also a type of collision. Just try to understand. So in collision, what is important? Due to their mutual interaction, their momentum, velocity, or energy changes. They need not to touch each other. Okay. Okay. So what happened? What we can write here? So we can write three things. As it is one-dimensional collision, so we can apply E equals to 1 here also, and that will become V2 minus V1 is equals to U1 minus V2. That equals to this. U1 minus U2 is equals to V2 minus V1. That the rate at which it approaches and it separate, both are the same. Okay, I will use this equation to solve this. Also, the energy is conserved, half m1 u1 square plus half m2 u2 square is equals to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square. Also, m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equals to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Okay, so okay, so I will use this equation. This is equation number 1, this is equation number 2, and equation number 3. So I will use 1 and 3. Okay, so if you use 1 and 3, what happened? Multiply equation number 1 with what? Let's suppose to with m2, let's suppose, and add with 3. What happened? Multiply by m2, m2 u2 and m2 u2 will cancel each other, right? And so from here we can write v1 equals to m1 minus m2 upon m1 plus m2 into u1 plus 2m2 upon m1 plus m2 into u2. You can write this. So this is a very simple question to show this and this. But if you are asked to derive this equation in your UPSC examination, you will not use this coefficient of restitution because it is nowhere mentioned in the syllabus. It's already in the subtopic, hidden topic, you can say, but it is always used if you use these concepts: energy, momentum, force, right? So you should use these concepts to deduce your equation. So for this, you should use this equation and this equation. What we can do, we can come to this conclusion using these equations. Okay, I will make you understand how well we can do this. Let me put your question there. Also, you will get the V2. Just you have to reverse this thing. Reverse this thing to m1 upon m1 plus m2 into u1 plus m1, sorry, m2 minus m1 upon m1 plus m2 into u2. Just reverse this thing, you will come to this thing. Okay. So this how we can make thing. So now let us see some cases, right? Let us see some cases. So case 1, if m1 equals to m2, what happened? What happened if m1 is equals to m2? So put it there. If you put it there, then you will find out, just put it here, m1 equals to m2, this will cancel out, and m1 to m1 to 1 cancel out, v2 will equals to u1. So you will lift with this, v2 is equals to u1 and v1 is equals to u2. What does it mean? What does it mean? This, what they are doing, they are exchanging their velocity, right? They're what? They're exchanging their velocity. So also in case of moderators, in case of nuclear reaction, so what we do, we know that the neutron is colliding with the proton, right? So what we do, we choose moderators such that their masses are same, so that they expel out their energy efficiently, and also when something is colliding with it, it comes to rest. For example, if, let's suppose this is coming with u1 and this is mass m, this is mass of m, and this is at rest, right? What happened? This mass, after this mass with this much of velocity, it will come to rest and it will go out, right? So this is the best application you can see for this equation. Okay, now let us understand more cases. So if you write the moderator in nuclear reaction are chosen on this principle, so you will fetch additional marks when you're getting. Also UPSC has asked numericals on this, so be careful on this. Also, if m1 is much greater than m2, so I'm leaving on you to use mathematical thing to show. But what I'm going to there, if m1 is very bigger than m2, then velocity of m1 will not change. Yes, if something is very for example, if this is the wall and if you throw a ball on it, what happened? Ball v and it rebounds. Let's suppose v1 and rebounds v2, but wall is still there. Also, if it is a truck or it's a wall, it's moving with v, it will not change its speed because its mass is very high, right? So when a very small mass collide with a very large mass, it's what you can say that uh, its velocity doesn't change abruptly. Okay, so what we can do here, so if m1 is greater than m2, in this case, this is m1. So in this we are, and m1 is moving with u and m2 is moving with v, let's suppose, or V, or let's suppose it's 0. Wait, wait. Let's consider this case that M2 is at rest and M1 is moving at M1. So what happened after a certain interval of time, after collision, let's suppose, this will move with U only because it's a massive thing, and M2 will move with V, and we need to find this V. So using the conservation of momentum, you can write that M1U plus M2 is that 0. It is M1U plus M2 into V. Okay. Wait. Let me use it other way because it will tell you about the momentum only. So what you can write, that coefficient of restitution is what? 1 here. You can simply put this formula in above what we have derived. So 1 will be what equals to? It will equals to V minus U upon U, and that will turn out V equals to 2U, because we have to apply these things also to get this result, right? So this will be the equation when a smaller mass is at rest and it collide with the heavier mass, then heavier mass will continue its motion, but the lighter mass will go with the 2U velocity. Also, if let's suppose M2 is traveling with U and M1, which is the heavier, is at rest, so what will happen? So what happens, this M2 you can simply put in the above equation, moves with U, and this M1 is still at rest. You can also use this key, E equals to 1. What is this? U minus 0 equals to U. V. Let's suppose this says V and this says V. So V equals to U in terms of speed. You can easily calculate it. So I suggest you can use any of the method. You just need to put these cases here. Okay. So we have seen that they can exchange their velocity. So let us do a one question. In case of oblique collision of two identical mass, spherical in nature, prove that they move perpendicular to each other. And this is very important when we read about scattering, especially when one object is at rest. So let's assume this M is at rest and this M is traveling with V, and this is the line of impact, you can say, and this angle is theta. So what happened? It has two components. It has V cos theta, sorry, V sin theta and V cos theta. So after collision, what will happen? They will exchange their velocity, but it will be along the line of impact only. What I am trying to say, just see this. So in case of oblique collision, you cannot say that it will exchange their velocity. It will exchange their velocity, but it will exchange the velocity along their line of impact. What happened? It will move with the V cos theta, and its component V sin theta will become 0 because its velocity is 0, and now it exchanges this and it will become V sin theta. And we also know that cos theta and sin theta are at perpendicular to each other. So this is what I mean to say. Also, they ask you to prove E equals to 1 in elastic collision, or they can define E, that velocity of separation is to the velocity of approach ratio is 1 in case of elastic collision or are same. So what you can do, you can simply say that they haven't asked this, but I think it is expected question. You can write it at for elastic collision m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equals to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. I'm writing for one dimension only, and it equals to m1 u1 whole square plus half m2 u2 whole square equals to half m1 v1 whole square plus half m2 v2 square. Okay, so just rewrite these equations. Just rewrite these equations. We can write this equation as m1 u1 minus v1 is equals to m2 u2 minus v2. Just we need to eliminate the m, and for this equation half will cancel out each other, and m1 will become u1, sorry, u1 whole square minus v1 whole square is equals to m2 u2. Wait, this is wrong. M2, this will become v2 minus u2, I think. Yes, v2 minus u2, and this will become u1 minus v1, and u1 minus v1 whole square, and this is become v2 minus u2 whole square. And we know that a square minus b square we can apply easily. So let's, this is 1 and this is 2. When you divide 2 by 1, so what you will get? You will get this u1 plus v1 is equals to u2 plus v2. You can do these things, so it will become u1 minus u2 is equals to v2 minus v1, and that what we have proved now, v2 minus v1 upon u1 minus u2, and this is what we call E, and this is equals to 1. So whenever a question came to prove these things in case of elastic collision, you should not use E. You should use this. Using energy and conservation, you should reach to this value, and then you deduce the later equation. Okay, so this is all about the head-on collision for elastic. Now let's move to the two-dimension, or you can say the oblique collision. Oblique elastic collision, or you can simply say that it's a 2D. So for simplicity, let's take u to 0 here. Okay, because in 2D most of the cases a particle is at rest and some particle bombard on it. So let's suppose, okay, this is m2 and here is m1 and it's coming with u1. Okay, and what happened after the collision? This is m1 goes in this direction, v1 let's suppose, and this is m2, this goes with v2 direction, and this is called theta 1 let's suppose, and this is theta 2. Okay, and theta 1 is called scattered angle. Here you should know that theta 1 is called scattered angle, and theta 2 is basically recoil angle. Always remember, recoil is used for those things which is not fired. Okay, so here m2 is not fired, so theta 2 will be associated with the recoil speed, not the scattered speed. Okay, so again we know that in z direction we have mg, right? So if in x coordinate, in x coordinate. We know that momentum is conserved. So we can write it as like m1 u1 is equals to m1 v1 cos theta 1 plus m2 v2 cos theta 2. In y coordinate, we know that in y coordinate momentum is not conserved because external force is acting on it, but we can use the conservation law in y also because the collision is sudden. It is acting for a very small time, and we have already discussed about in bomb blasting. So I hope you remember this. So it will become 0, and this is m1 v1 sine theta 1 minus m2 v2 sine theta 2. Simple momentum conservation. Okay, and for the energy conservation and from kinetic energy conservation, we already have this thing, half m1 u1 square is equals to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square. Okay, so this, if we try to solve these questions, right, it will be very tedious to solve this equation, very tedious to solve these equation, finding out theta 1 theta 2. So we will use center of mass frame of reference for this. But we can, one thing we can be sure about, that sine theta 2 is equals to v1 by v2 into sine theta 1. So if we know one angle, any of the recoil or scattered angle, we can find the another one. Okay, and also, so this is when m1 equals to m2, right? So if we consider for the same mass, but one thing is clear, that we know that after collision they move orthogonally. So you can write it as theta 1 plus theta 2 is equals to pi by 2. You can always write it that, right? So you can use this when you are writing the center of mass frame. Okay, also, now try to understand it from the center of mass frame. So this frame is very important when we read about these 2D or 1D collision. So what happened? Just try to understand this. So if you are at center of mass, you are in zero momentum frame. So velocity of center of mass is what? Is, we know that it's m1 u1 upon m1 plus m2, right? So we can find out v1 dash and m1 dash and v1 dash also, right? So what we can do, that v1 dash is what? Velocity of 1 with respect to center of mass, and v2 dash is what? Velocity of 2 with respect to center of mass. So we have already discussed about these things, and we also know that v2 dash is equals to m1 by m2 v1 dash. Okay, also u2 dash is also equals to m1 by m2 or u1 dash. So we have already discussed these things in our previous lectures also. So how to convert this from lab to center of mass frame. So what we can do here, we can substitute in this total energy. So what is the energy in the case of center of mass? It will be half m1 u1 dash whole square plus half m2 u2 dash whole square is equals to half m1 v1 dash square plus half m2 v2 dash whole square. So if you put this value, you can simply put this value And what you will get, this half m1 u1 square plus half m2. Let's use m2 equals to m1 by m2 into u1 dash whole square, so that it becomes in u1 dash only. And this become what? Half m1 v1 dash whole square plus half m2 v2 dash. Let's put it at m1 by m2 at v1 dash square. So what happened? It will comes out to be, this will cancel out, and it turns out to be that u1 dash is equals to v1 dash, and it is of much use, much use. So from this, what we can inform that magnitude of velocities of particle remain unchanged. Okay. So from this, what we can infer, let's try to understand. For example, if this is m1 and it's coming with u1, okay, and this is m2, it is coming with u2. And if you're seeing this from center of mass frame, so what happened? It will go like this, and it will go like this. At any interval of time, this is m2, u2 dash, and this is m1, u1 dash. So their velocity are similar, so they will lie in a same line, right? So they will lie in a same line. So if you consider this as theta 1 dash and this as theta 2 dash, you can simply say that theta 1 dash plus theta 2 dash is equals to pi, easily. Also can have any value of scattering angle, because it will, velocity will remain unchanged. We can have any value of theta 1 dash and theta 2 dash. It will just have to be in opposite direction. That's it. Nothing more than that. But when we try to calculate the scattering angle in lab frame, when we try to calculate the scattering angle in lab frame, what we have to do? We have to just make the use of some common things. For example, tan theta 1 can be written as v1 sin theta 1 upon v1 cos theta 1. Now, theta 1. So from above, we have already, yes, from this, we can write it as, because we are treating for the same mass, we can write it as v1 sin theta 1 is what? v1 dash sin theta. Okay, v1 dash sin theta. Theta 1 dash, sorry. Okay, and for v1 cos theta 1, if we convert this in our center of mass, we can write as v1 dash cos theta 1 dash plus velocity of center of mass, simply, right? I think this is right. We have already defined these things. Yes, yes. This is right. So this is the equation we can write. Also, what we can else write for this V center of mass? So V center of mass is what? V center of mass is m1 u1. V center of mass is what? m1 u1 upon m1 plus m2, and that is equals to m1 u1 dash plus v upon m1 plus m2. No, simply we don't need to use these things. Wait a minute. We can use this directly. So we can directly evaluate it. Don't worry. We can directly evaluate that tan theta 1 is equals to divided by v sine theta, that is sine theta 1 dash upon cos theta 1 dash plus v center of mass upon v1. And we know that v center of mass upon v1 is equals to what? m1 by m2. We have already discussed these things, right? That v center of mass upon v1 is what? m1 by m2. You can also check this, that what is v center of mass? So v center of mass we already discussed, this m1 u1 upon m1 plus m2. And what is this v1? It is v1 dash. It is m2 upon m1 plus m2 into u1. Okay, so using these things you can simply jump to this conclusion. Okay, sorry, this is v1 dash. We have divided the whole thing with v1 dash. So here we are, that tan theta 1 is equals to sine theta 1 dash upon cos theta 1 dash upon m1 plus m2. So I am recording this lecture in late night. I haven't slept for last days. So please check the calculation if we have made any mistake. But this result is true because I know this result, that's why. But simply check the calculation. Okay. So what will be the effect of m1 by m2 here? So we need to understand this also. So let's suppose if m1 is greater than m2, if m1 is greater than m2, so this what? This whole will become greater than m2, and what happen? This will theta 1 will become less than 90 degree, because the whole thing will become positive. Okay, you can simply see the result is the basic trigonometry. If m1 equals to m2, this will exactly become 1, right? And cos theta 1 can be equals to -1 also, so its value can get up to 90 degree. Okay. So this is not equals to 90 degree, sorry. So it will have any value, it can have any value, because we just have to see one thing, that denominator should not be 0, right? Basic of the function, so it will not become 0, that's why. So here theta can have any value limiting up to 90 degree. But if we have m1 less than m2, then theta can be any value. any value, because it will become less than 1, so it can have any value. Okay, you can simply check these things with trigonometry. Okay, so one more thing, if you see the energy, if you see the energy, you can simply write the energy in L frame and C frame, and then you can use the transformation. So I'm not doing it right now because I'm going to give this in your assignment. So from there I will check if you have done it or not. So what should we expect from this lesson, right? Not much, just focus on the elastic collision, and this class is only a base for the next class, you can say. So in next class, I also repeat that this class is only base for the next class, that you will able to understand the next class. You have to see only three things. First one is variable mass system, how it works, especially the rocket motion. Second, what do you mean by types of collision, elastic, inelastic, what are their significance, and how we choose the nuclear reactor. Also, the conversion into center of mass frame to the lab frame and all this. In next class, we will study about differential cross section and mainly Rutherford scattering. Also, I haven't discussed the two body problem or reduced mass problem. So I will complete these things when we study about the central forces, because it is very useful there only. Also, homework for today. Wait. Wait. No, I will do one more question. Sorry, we will see the last question, then we will move on. So that in the case of an elastic and glancing, that means they are on the same edge. Collision between two particles of mass m1 and m2. This is very important question, I guess. Okay. Also, the maximum value of the scattering angle theta1 in the laboratory frame corresponds to the theta in the center of mass frame, where theta equals to cos inverse minus m2 by m1. Also, so that this maximum value of the scattering angle, that is theta1 equals to tan inverse m1 square upon m2 square minus 1 Okay. So this is the question. Now come to its solution. How can we solve this? So according to the scattering angle in laboratory frame, and so what we have studied, theta 1 dash and theta 1, here it is theta 1 and theta. Okay, so we know the equation tan theta 1 is equals to, we have studied dash dash, right, is equals to sine theta upon cos theta. According to the question, I'm writing it upon m1 by m2. This thing we already know that. Okay. Okay. So what we find out the maximum angle. So what we have to do? We have to differentiate it. Differentiate it to theta to find out the maximum, right? So let's differentiate it. So tan theta, it will become sec square theta 1 d theta 1 by d theta is equals to sine cos. Okay, you know the basic UV rule for the differentiation, cos theta 1 plus m1 by m2. Then we will put minus sign, then we will differentiate this. This will become sine theta and minus sine theta. Okay, and this will become cos theta plus m1 by m2 whole square. Okay, for the maximum value of theta 1, we need to do what? If we want to maximize theta 1, so we need to do what? We need to put d theta 1 by d theta equals to 0, right? So for doing this, what we have to do, if we follow the upper thing, you can write it as cos square theta plus sine square theta upon m1 by m2 cos theta upon the डिनोमिनेटर जो भी है. मैं इसलिए लिख रहा हूं क्योंकि इधर तो क्या है, you should not do these things in your examination. Sec square theta 1 d theta 1 by d theta. So we have to make this 0, right? So I will make this one 0. If this one becomes 0, this all will become 0. So cos square theta plus 1 square theta, that will become 1. So this will become cos theta is equals to minus m2 by m1. So we prove that theta is equals to cos inverse minus m2 by m1. This thing we have to prove that. See this. Point particles, theta is in the center of mass frame where theta is equals to this one. So we have proved this. Now the next part. It seems to be lengthy, but it's very easy to solve. It's simply a just differentiation of class 11th. So what we need to do, we need to just put out the value, right? Put the value in above equation, and that's it from my side. And this is your homework, right? You can put the value and check the relation already given above. Okay, so finally we come to the end of this lecture, and already discussed. In the next class we will learn about differential scattering cross section and Rutherford. Also, homework is your DPT-4. Also, I want to make one thing clear. You should submit your DPT-4 before the schedule timing or before the deadline, because if you're not submitting the DPT, I'm going to take some strict action for those students. Maybe I can cancel their registration. Maybe I can maybe I will not provide them videos later, right? So this course is free, I totally understand, but it's free only for the sincere students, right? And those who want to clear this examination, right? So you have to submit to DPT. If you don't know any of the answer, then also submit the DPT, write anything. You will fetch definitely more than 0 marks. Okay, there is no negative marks here. You should submit all the DPTs. Also, write anything in your question. If you write anything in your question, you will get half marks at least. So don't leave any question. Also, one more thing, while checking your DPTs, I see that most of you are writing the questions. Don't write the questions. Write correct test code and write the question number. That is sufficient only. Don't write the question again if you're writing on the blank sheet. Okay. Also use quantum IS sheet or plain UPSC sheet. Don't use other coaching sheet while submitting DPT. Okay. These things keep you in your mind. Okay. Thank you for this class. We will next meet tomorrow for the next class.